Okay. Going live in three, two, one. Well, this is the second episode of the Working Title Experience with last week we ran it on Monday. This week I'm running it on a Wednesday. So tonight I have a guest who's part of the or has experienced what is oops, hold on a second. I have to pause this. I didn't mean to leave that up. Sorry there. Okay, so tonight I have a guest on that is part of has experienced the cancel culture in a pretty bad way. And her name is Ann Hummel. And I'd like to introduce her to you. Excuse me, I'm stumbling over my words here. And she's a really nice person, and I'm going to bring her up on screen. And Anne, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It is Anna.
Anna. Sorry, I'm
No,
so sorry.
it's totally okay. It's phonetically Anna. It's not your fault. My parents spelled my name wrong, so I don't get mad about that at all. So yeah.
Anna, I will remember that in the future.
No problem. No problem.
So Anna was a now. What was the station? Now this is a big thing that happened to you. What was the station you were working at when this first happened? You were a part of. Go ahead and give your story there.
Sure. I used to work at a station called 102.5 The Bone in Tampa, Florida. I worked there for probably 4 years and some change, and then I had a few unfortunate events with HR.
Kind of. Can I interrupt you for a second? What
Yeah.
did you do? What were you doing at the when you were at the station? Were you were you on air? What was your
Yeah. I actually walked into the station as doing promotions. So the person that's like on the street that gives you t-shirts and things like that. But the intention, I moved from Detroit to Florida for the gig. I wanted to be on air, but they brought me in as a promo person. And then after 3 weeks, after I started doing promo, they go, you're really bad with people. Time to put you on air. I go, okay, that's fine with me. So I moved to an on-air position, and it was like very like bottom of the totem pole, just basically phone screening, um, which is basically taking calls and putting people on hold and asking what their name was, like just really basic stuff. And then slowly moved into like a co-host position, and then after about a year and a half, got my own show, and it was at night, so it wasn't like a big deal or anything. But it was really cool to go from being someone who was just doing promotions and setting up tents to someone who was hosting a show. I asked for the hour, and they gave it to me pretty quickly. And although I'm not one to promote identity politics, I definitely think I benefited from it because it was the first time they ever had a female host, and they really wanted to check that off their diversity box. So I was more than happy to do that for them.
what's the format? What is the format of the station? Is it rock?
It was all talk radio, so it's pretty
Oh,
unusual
oh,
format.
I'll talk. Oh, wow. Okay.
All talk. Yeah, usually the typical format is you have a morning show, right, with four guys, maybe one chick, and then the rest of the day is music, is rock. But this was pretty unusual. There's only about three or four, maybe five stations nationwide that have an all talk platform or format where it's literally from like 6 a.m. to 1 a.m. It was live radio, live talk radio. So really unusual format.
Okay. So what were you doing during the overnight?
Yeah, I was working probably till about 1 every night. I was co-hosting on a show, and then I hosted my own show. So they were like back-to-back shows. So I really got a lot of experience, obviously doing the phone screening. I could co-host, I could be a seat three, and then I was also hosting my own show as well.
Okay. I
And
just
then
want to.
yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. I just want to make sure that everyone knew what you were actually doing there before. I mean, before you told
Yeah.
your. Uh,
Yeah. So I was on air. I was, talking to the people. When COVID hit, we started doing weekend live content as well. So it was like 6, 7 days a week where it was just constantly live. So, I certainly wasn't the anchor of the station or the most important person that worked there, but people, the listeners, were aware of who I was. And I was often like they call me kind of like a Mike slut, because anytime anybody like needed a break or wanted to take a vacation or was sick or something, like I was always their go-to person for a C2, a C3, a phone screener, a seat one, like whatever. I just tried to become like a utility player, which was the good move. Unless you say something they don't like, in which case, see you later, bye. So
So and you moved on now to the morning show, is that correct?
yeah, so I got fired in June of last year, so 2020. I like to say I'm the only person in 2020 that was fired, but not because of COVID, which is unusual because everybody I know either got furloughed or fired, let go, however you want to say it. But I didn't lose my job because of COVID. I lost my job over an unsavory tweet. So it is what it is. But I ended up working for the rival station. So
Well,
I got
did you want to discuss? I mean, if did you want
yeah.
to discuss why you got fired?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think we're all aware of all the shenanigans that happened last year, and during it was really bad timing, to be honest with you. Like, it was really not a tasteful tweet, but I'm more than happy to share what it was. So I'm sure we all remember the George Floyd incident that happened of May of last year. Really wasn't a time that people were in the mood for laughs, and I should have been a bit more sensitive to that. But being who I was, I seized the moment. And about a week or so, maybe 2 weeks, excuse me, after he died, um, it came out in a report that he actually had COVID-19. So I made a joke, which wasn't even my joke. Like, I heard somebody else say it, and then I kind of turned it into my own thing. But I remember making the tweet. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be this one's gonna murder. I'm probably gonna get like at least 75 likes on this one. Wrong. So I basically said, like, if they try to pin the George Floyd death as a COVID death, I'm going to loot myself. Essentially saying, because it was starting to come out that, a motorcyclist would get in an accident, but he had COVID-19, and they're like, oh, this is a COVID death. Like, it was
Yeah.
starting to just get ridiculous. So I was like, how insane would it be if they tried to say that George Floyd died of COVID-19? Like, that would be insane. So I tried to merge two hot topics into one tweet, and it blew up in my face. Not the move, not the move. So
The what was the backlash immediate, or what happened exactly?
pretty immediate. Yeah. So I had an incident the year before, and that was it took about 24 hours for that to kick in before the people started clamoring. But this one was pretty instantaneous. So I made the tweet right before I went on air. So it was probably about 8:30 p.m. At about 10 p.m., I'm on the air and my boss calls me. Now, my boss did not care about me or the show, because we were like, they only really care what happens between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. So, as nighttime people, you're essentially just filler. The way that radio works, or what's left of radio, because it's a dying industry, but a terrestrial radio, how it works is like one or two people make a lot of money. Can I swear?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, okay, awesome. A lot of people, or a few people, make like a shit ton of money, and then everybody else gets paid like pittance. Like, you make no money whatsoever. And I know this going in, so I'm not trying to be like, it's not fair. Like, this is, the bet I made for myself. I have to lay in it. I understand this is just how it works. Whatever. So, I know that my boss doesn't care about what's going on past 6 p.m. So the fact that he's calling me at 10 p.m. when he knows I'm on the air is problematic. So he calls me, or I think he texted me. He said, call me when you go to break. And I went, oh, fuck, that's not good. So we went to break. I go in the hallway, I make a call, and he's berating me. He is just like, what is wrong with you? We went through an absolute PR nightmare crisis literally a year ago. You had meetings with HR, you had to take sensitivity training courses, you had to make a public apology, you were suspended for a week, you had meetings with me weekly for 6 months to you keep tabs on what the hell and what the fuck you're saying. And now here we are a year later, and you made a tweet that's like, why, what are you doing? So, obviously I deleted it and everything. And then the big head honcho boss started following me on Twitter, which he was clearly alerted to it. So but when I looked at the tweet right before I deleted it, there was just a few likes and nobody, there was maybe a comment like, haha, like they thought they understood the joke I was making. But nobody on social media actually really responded in a way that was, like they were trying to make it go viral for some reason. It was an inside job. So that really was like, that was someone at the station who didn't like me. I know exactly who it was. They alerted the boss to it. This person happened to be African American. So I know that and this person is a race baiter. They make everything about race. Everything's racist. If I disagree with you because you're Asian or black or Hispanic, it's because I'm racist. It's not because you had a bad idea. So whatever. I know this person. I know what they're up to. So they alerted the boss to it. They notified me. They then put me. This was the shittiest part, is that they didn't fire me immediately. They took me off the air and they just said, "We'll let you know what's going on." So I was in limbo for a week, literally shitting myself every day. And my boss would call me and say, "We don't know, just stay off the air. We don't know, just stay off the air."
So when you say off the air, were you still coming in doing other things?
No, I was like, you're not, I mean, no, because my job was to be on the air. So they told me, do not go, like, don't be at the station, don't be on air. We don't want you on air because we don't know what to do with you. Like, essentially, it's like you're a loose cannon, and he felt like you couldn't trust me. Fair enough. So it happened on a Tuesday night. They just said Wednesday don't come in, and then Wednesday they told me Thursday, Friday don't come in, and then Monday they told me Monday don't. It was like every day. So I'm just like, let me know what the fuck. Like, I don't have a job. I had a second job that I had got furloughed from because of COVID. So I was freaking out, and then they then fired me then the following Wednesday. So they made me sweat it out for a week, which was really shitty. I wish they would have just fired me immediately, but they didn't. So
So you said this was an inside job, basically.
yeah.
So as far as like any kind of outside response, I mean, people from outside the station, were there any complaints about this?
No, none. It was just it was one or two people that were conspiring against me. They didn't like me. They didn't like my ideas. As we all know, 2020, the election, there were a lot of um, it was a very contentious time. And if you had views that other people didn't agree with, they were more than happy to, not only say, I disagree with you, but to disparage your name and try to ruin your reputation by saying things that are kind of um, irrefutable, in the way that, like, if someone calls you a racist, how do you prove you're not? Right? You just go, well, no, I'm not. And they go, well, yes, you are. And then when you start explaining, you're losing. Oh, well, I have black friends. Oh, that's what they all say, blah, blah, blah. Like, you could marry a black guy and have black children. They'd be like, oh, you just did that for optics. You're like, what? Like, well, what are you saying? So, yeah, that's kind of what happened. I was pretty vocal about how I felt about a few things regarding my not even really, like, I was never a rah Trump supporter, but I could just see what the other side was up to. And the more I distanced myself from the left, the more people just thought that it's like, as soon as you say anything against the left, and I will call it the right too, I call it everybody, but if you say anything against the left, like, you're immediately a Nazi. I'm like, but I'm a Jew. Like, I can't be like, what do you mean I'm a Nazi? They're like, you're a Nazi. Like, you're fascist. You hate poor people. I'm like, I'm poor. What are you talking about? Like, so it was just kind of, it was a ridiculous time. And the company was just so frightened to say anything or misstep or do anything or support anyone that made them look insensitive to the things that were going on. And I get that, but I can't live in that world because of who I am as a person. So
Right, right. Now, I know that I've worked in radio myself for many years, and I remember being told I worked at Clear Channel until 2011.
okay.
And I remember there was a specific incident where one of the people I was working in the department I was in, got arrested. And I remember the manager coming in one day and said, well, if he gets arrested and he gets convicted, we're going to have to fire him because we don't want a bad reputation. And I was
Mhm.
like, everyone was like, wait, what? And it's like,
Yeah.
people were like, well, that's not really fair. And the basic idea was, well, we don't want to have that kind of reputation and there. And he never got fired. I don't know what happened. I think he got arrested and it was a minor offense or something. I don't know.
Mhm.
But yeah, and it was like that a lot, and I can understand that to some degree because I do run my own business. I don't want somebody who's like screaming racial, going on the internet screaming how they hate certain groups of people over and over and over, and then they publicly work for me at the same time.
Sure. Yeah.
I would probably want to, let them go as well. So I mean, there are situations where I can understand that, but there are certain like getting arrested though for I think it was a bar fight or something, and that's a little too extreme in some way. I think there's varying degrees of when that happens, and for you, I think they were just being a little too way over cautious from what you're saying there.
Well, I mean, if I'm being fully honest, I think they made the right decision just because the brand of radio, I mean, the tagline of the station is real raw radio. And I couldn't be real and I couldn't be raw. So it's like what, or if I could, it was like, but I couldn't talk about certain things because the company, you know, didn't want to lose money. If the advertisers pull out because they don't want to support someone who's quote racist or sexist, then advertisers pull out, the company loses money. So I completely understand their need to placate them, but I can't live in that world. Like I can't operate in that world because I just need to say what the fuck is on my mind. And I don't like doing this nice radio like top 10 favorite Halloween candy. Like I can't fucking do that. Like I have no time for that. I have no patience for that whatsoever. So I have no interest in doing that type of radio. But then they were like, okay, well, you can talk about certain things, but like you have to, you better have this stance on it, or you better be sensitive to it. It's like, no, you can't. We're
Really?
not,
You
we're not
actually tell you that? Wow.
well, when things started, actually, to be honest with you, that happened after I left. So
Oh,
after I was fired,
oh,
it was like, hey, we're talking about this. Make sure that you're sensitive to X, Y, and Z. And to be honest with you, right before I got fired, my boss called everybody and was like, hey, this is a really sensitive time. Like, just make sure, not telling me what to say, but like kind of suggesting let's be smart and let's be sensitive to certain things. Like we can't, if someone says something about like George Floyd, you can't be like, well, that's ridiculous, why are they rioting? Like you need to be understanding of people and the racial injustice. I'm like, what racial like injustice? Like the stats don't support that at all. Well, let's not talk about so it's like you couldn't be truthful. So what are we doing? But if you were, a certain color, or, had a claim to be a certain ethnicity, obviously you were free to say basically whatever the fuck you wanted, which is not fair, obviously. So
right, right. So would you care to talk about what happened before? Because you talked about how this was not the first incident.
no, no, there are a few incidences actually. The biggest one was when I attended a comedy show in Orlando in 2019, about in like late March. And in the middle of the show, just a freak accident, a woman has a seizure. What? This is crazy. I'm at the show that a woman in the middle of the audience like has a seizure. And at first it was kind of funny because everyone just thought she was laughing really hard. So, but then it was like people started to freak out. The lights came on. They, cut the mics. Paramedics come in. Like it was a whole fucking like hullabaloo. And then the main act gets on the stage and he starts roasting the paramedics for having like the shirts were too tight. They're like, man, like those are like whatever. He's just roasting people that are like trying to help. Like the show must go on. And it was just such a chaotic circus of a show that it's one of those things. It's like you were at the show where the tiger ate like Siegfried and Roy. Like you were there and you want people to know you were there. So my dumb ass gets home after this big circus of a production, and I just kind of take to Instagram, and I'm like, oh, I went to the show. This woman had a seizure. So crazy. The show was great. Basically saying I went to a show, a woman had a seizure, full stop. It was great, full stop. not the show was great because a woman had a seizure. Obviously, I didn't say that. But I was just basically saying it was a really chaotic show. The comedian's pretty famous. He's going to talk about it. It was Andrew Schultz, for anybody that knows who he is. He's awesome. So that was circulating on Instagram for about 24 hours on my story. And then probably in like the 23rd hour, some woman saw it and just was like, that's disgusting. You're despicable. I can't believe you said the show was great because a woman had a seizure. I said, I didn't fucking say that. You know, I clapped back. I'm like, I didn't fucking say that. Go, mind your business. Go fuck off. Like, just clapped her away. And then she recorded it. She started sharing it to Facebook.
Wait, hold on. Record it. So this was, how did she communicate with you? Like on
She DM'd me on Instagram. I guess she followed me and she saw the video on Instagram, DM'd me, said it was disgusting.
okay. Oh, I see. So you just
Yeah.
responded back in text. Okay.
Yeah, like, yeah, on DM. She didn't have my
Okay.
phone number, but yeah, on through Instagram. And then she screen recorded it and just shared it on YouTube, and she went on Twitter and tagged like the Epilepsy Foundation of America, which had like 154,000 members. So that was problematic. And then it was just like a tidal wave of like, they found out everything. I was like basically doxxed. Like, they found out where I worked, what
Oh,
I did, like everything. I mean,
is that,
people were sending me death threats. Like, it was just pretty wild.
wow. So I mean, as far as doxing, did they do anything with your family? I've heard sometimes they'll go as far as like getting family members involved as well.
No, thankfully they didn't go that far, but they did find out where I worked. They found the number to the place. They found like the address of where I worked. People were sending letters. People were like, the boomers, obviously, sending letters. The people were calling in. I mean, they had so many calls that, like when you call in and it's like, for one, if you're looking for this, please press one. If you're looking for that, please press two. Like, they had to add a number to be like, if you're making a complaint about, from the epilepsy, blah, 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 please press 99, like something, because there was just so many calls. Like, we're talking hundreds of calls. If you went on the Facebook page of the station, the DMs were just like hundreds of people just saying like, who's this on a chick? She should be fired. People like, she should be dead. She should be put in a body bag, like heinous stuff. And I mean, people were finding comments I was writing on Instagram, like it was like there would be like 1,000 comments and someone would find it, screenshot it, and like send it to my employer. It was just absolutely insane. So I was freaking out. I had to meet with like the big boss, my direct boss, members of HR. Like, we had a woman fly in from Miami. We had a family flying from like Connecticut to talk to like educate my boss on like epilepsy. My company, which was Cox Media Tampa, ended up as a peace offering giving thousands of dollars of like free advertisement to the Epilepsy Foundation of America. So there's a rotating PSA that still goes on to this day on all 6 stations, not even just the one I worked at, but like our sister stations, all of them, a minute PSA, like thousands of dollars, just a free advertising to save my ass. So
Well, even though you're gone, you're not saving you anymore. So
well, yeah, I mean, I assume that they're still there, like, just as, because it was free, like, so,
uh
whatever. It was just kind of like, and it's also just a filler. I'm sure you could take those out if anybody could take those out, so it's not a problem. But I mean, they left those in there for the duration of what time I worked there. So that was April 2019. I got fired June 2020. They were still playing all the time, all day. So
So the format of the station you said is talk. It's obviously it's not anything that's like pushing the envelope then. It's more it's more reserved, I guess.
no, it was pretty like, I hate to use the term like shock talk, but that's what it was. Like, we were pretty, edgy and stuff. I mean, obviously less so than even just when I started, but I mean, we would make some, pretty salacious jokes, or jokes where you're, pushing the envelope and stuff like that. But it's funny because you really don't know what's gonna like make people tick, like what's going to trigger people. For example, like I could make jokes about Asians, right? I'd make jokes about, I mean, like I make fun of everybody. I make fun of myself. I make fun of Jews. I make fun of women. I make fun, it doesn't matter. Like everybody's fair game to me. And one time I said something about like pit bulls being a dangerous dog. I fucking swear to God, we had like 20 messages, emails saying like this woman is saying like pit bulls are all bad. Like this is such bad press. That's not true. I own a pit bull. It's like, but they maul people all the time. Like they're dangerous dogs. So like that triggered like the pit bull, people, and they felt the need to say that I was, spreading fake news or some shit. So like you never know who you're gonna piss off.
That
But yeah.
didn't get you in trouble. That didn't get you in trouble though, did it?
No, I mean, like, that's not like racist, sexist. They're like, shut up, it doesn't matter. But yeah, they definitely got some messages because I was like, yeah, pit bulls are dangerous. I didn't say every pit bull is a fucking monster, but every time you read about a dog attack, it's usually a pit bull or like a Rottweiler. Like the dogs are, bred to fight and hunt. So what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
Like, but yeah.
So let's. I wanted to ask you. Getting slightly off the topic of this, how would you describe yourself to my listeners? I mean, what kind of person would
Oh
you say you
God.
are?
Describe myself like adjectives. I don't know, I would just say I'm a truth seeker. I don't take things too seriously. um I'm not bragging, but I'm probably the best sport you'll ever meet in terms of like people making fun of me, taking jokes. Like I'm a big fan of comedy. I grew up watching stand-up comedy, listening to stand-up comedy, listening to Howard Stern when I was like 10, 11. Like my dad didn't know what like parental discretion was. So I feel like I was exposed to these things really young, and it kind of like fucked me up, and in a good way, where I really appreciate humor. I like to make people laugh. I like to be made to laugh. So that's probably like the crux of my personality is I like to have a good time. That's why I do radio, and that's why I don't work in like a corporate job or, where I have to wear, business casual clothes and have all these formalities. Like I just like to be chill. I like to, if I go to work in sweatpants, like who fucking cares? I like to just speak my truth, speak the truth. I love discussion. I love open discourse. My favorite thing is like having a discussion with someone I disagree with, and we can just be friends and talk things out, and whoever has the best idea or argument wins. Like I'm more than happy to have my mind changed. I'm definitely I like to learn. So I'm never married to any of my ideas or ideologies. Like I believe in everything I believe because I think it's like the best solution or the best idea I have right now. But I'm more than happy to change my mind, and my opinions are not attached to my ego. So which when you are not defined by your ideology, then you don't feel like you have to be right. You just want to know either like the best solution or the truth. And whatever that is, I'm more than happy to accept it if you can back it up with facts. So,
Right. And instead of obviously a lot of people just presenting their subjective opinion as being factual a lot, which happens a lot,
right.
unfortunately. So, I mean, so how do you feel about what's going on with the cancel culture in general? Obviously, you've been affected by this.
Sure. Well, I mean, it's disheartening and it's frightening. Both of those things simultaneously together. Disheartening because it's just unfortunate that, people are so scared to speak what's on their mind, and they're really trying to channel like one type of thinking. I mean, we can see what's going on with like YouTube and what's going on with Twitter and what's going on. I haven't seen it so much with Instagram, but like those two, and Facebook. So like it's fake news, or you are censored, or you're shadow banned if you have, more conservative ideas. And I mean, I don't even consider myself to be like a conservative or a Republican or anything like that. I really, to me, it depends on the issue at hand. Are we talking about gay marriage? Because in that case, I couldn't be more liberal. Like, who fucking cares? It doesn't matter to me. It's not my business. But then if we're talking about taxes or immigration, yeah, I'm going to hang to the right. I think it's unfortunate that I can with probably about 95% accuracy. If you tell me how you feel about guns, I can guess how you feel about racial injustice, tax reform, um, war, healthcare. Like, I shouldn't be able to predict that with 95% accuracy, but I can because everybody's following a script. It's like,
Well,
if we're Democrat, we believe blah 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 blah. And it's like, if you tell me how you feel about climate change, I could probably predict how you feel about guns. I shouldn't be able to predict those two things, but I can, because it's like these people, left and right, they're sheep. Thinking is hard, and doing research is time consuming, and when you have to be made to think, it's like, some people don't enjoy it. I like it. I like flexing my mental muscles, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people just like to be like, I'm on the right side of history, or I'm a good person and I'm a compassionate person, so I'm a Democrat and I believe X, Y, and Z, and that's it. No discussion. And if you don't, you believe me or you don't agree with me, then you're part of the problem. You're a racist, you're a sexist, you're a bigot, you hate immigrants. And I'm like, I'm literally all of those things. Like, people they're like, you hate immigrants. I'm like, I was born in Israel. Like, I'm an immigrant. They're like, oh, they're like, well, you hate women. Or I'm like, what?
you need women.
Yeah, like, or I'll say something again. They're like, why are you like, or you're a Nazi? And I'm like, I'm Jewish. Like, what are you saying? Like, you're making no sense whatsoever. So, um, I find that to be really unfortunate. And then it's also really scary because, if we kind of take a little glance back through history, this is exactly what, again, I'm not suggesting that a Holocaust is on its way, but this is really what happened after World War I in Germany, when the Nazi party was rising to power. And it really wasn't the Nazis that started taking over and making turning the population against the Jews. It was really the people, like your neighbor. You were encouraged to turn in your neighbor and call them out for being, a Jew, or they were exhibiting anti-Semitism. And so you were encouraged to call out your neighbor and turn them into the brown shirts. That's what was going on. And that's kind of what we see now. Is it's like, it's the people turning against each other. So the government, sets it in motion, and then the people just kind of do the hard labor. And you're able to call your grandmother a bigot at Christmas dinner, and if you do, you're applauded, and you're a martyr, or you're standing up to racism. It's like, we're calling out our friends and our family. Like, I know people personally who are no longer friends with people they've been friends with for 15 years, because they're like, oh, you didn't say enough during the BLM stuff, you're racist. It's like, but you're black and you're my best friend and you've been my best friend for 15 years. Like, you actually know me. If I was just like a white person you didn't know, not great for you to assume I'm racist, but like, you actually have a personal relationship with me, and now you think I'm racist? Like, what planet are you living on? So
And this
it's
is
yeah.
this is pretty much a more of a recent phenomenon, though, right? I mean, it's like it wasn't like this 10 years ago at all.
Yeah, you could obviously, if you look closely, you can see kind of like the seeds of it, but certainly, with like these massive movements where you have, we had social media 10 years ago, but now, like, almost every person on the planet that has access to Wi-Fi has, a social media account, and everybody has a voice. So yeah, it's everybody is able to have, can say whatever they want, and if they want to cancel you and call you out, they're more than, willing to do so.
So, I mean, has your I don't know if you want to talk too much about what's going on right now, but I mean, has everything been okay since you've been canceled?
Yeah, I'm working at a new station now, kind of the rival station of my previous place of employment. So that was kind of like a nice fu to those people over there. And it's not, it's a business, but it's not corporate radio. I work for a guy named Bubba Love Sponge, who has been canceled many times himself. So he understands kind of where I'm coming from. And it seems like he's also been collecting a lot of the rejects from the bone, as I'm quoting right now, air quoting right now. But a lot of us have either been fired or we quit or whatever. So he kind of takes us all in. He himself actually worked for the Bone, the place I was fired from, and he was fired because he was involved in a pretty massive sex tape scandal that got leaked, and so he lost everything. The man had a $1.4 million home in Tampa and had a private plane and, had the hot wife, had everything. And then it all unraveled and he lost it all and ended up living in a trailer behind his place of employment for a few months. So, I mean, talk about a fall from grace. So the guy is, he's on the upswing now. He's doing a lot better now. But, that is the type of person, what would you call it? Just the loose cannon I'm working with. So he kind of, we're not that we're one and the same, but, cut from the same cloth, I suppose.
Uh-huh. So, and yeah, is this good for you? I mean, is everything going? I mean, is this better? Do you think, or do you think?
Yeah, much better,
Have
much better.
you heard anything from the place you were for? The bone, like anyone?
Yeah, I do. I still have friends, close friends that still work there, and they kind of inform me on what's going on. And corporate radio and terrestrial radio is really on its way out. I mean, the digital space is, that's where everything lives. No one is really taking to terrestrial radio. It was already on its way out, but especially with the pandemic, many of the people who would listen to us when they were driving in their vehicle are now working from home.
Oh, yeah,
So
that's right. Yeah, yeah. Oh, I can imagine. Yeah, it would
you're
drive the
losing a
numbers down.
lot of listeners, right? No, who would wake up like if I have to wake up and I'm driving at 6 and it takes me an hour to get to work, I'm going to listen maybe from 6 to 7, but if I can work from home, I'm waking up at 6:58, heading to my computer in my living room and getting started right at 7, and then when I'm done with work, like I'm not, getting in a car or anything. I'm just going to maybe turn on the TV and start watching Netflix. Like you're not thinking about, let me listen to radio. So
Yeah.
it's certainly on its way out. So we have utilized Twitch, which I'm sure you're familiar with, as a gamer, and that's what we've been using to stream our radio show. So it's been really cool.
Yeah, and, are the numbers pretty high on Twitch? You get good numbers?
Yes, we're actually the number one rated radio show on Twitch in the world. in the
Wow.
in the world, yeah. So which isn't pretty impressive. Obviously, it doesn't match like the gamer, like the big. Isn't there like a guy named like Tizo? I don't know. He lives in Florida,
I'm
Tampa.
not sure about that. I'm sure
Um,
other
but
people
like
may know.
yeah, like I can't remember because I don't know anything about that. But like these people have like millions and millions and millions of followers. Like AOC, she got on Twitch and she got a lot of followers. So we're not like those numbers, but as far as like strictly a radio show goes, we're number one, and we have probably about like maybe like 2,000 people, like really 80 people, like when you break it down, who are keeping us on the air, like throwing us bits, throwing us money, and really pay our bills. So it's really like maybe like a core of like 100 people who are like diehard Bubba fans and have been Bubba fans since 1995, and they just donate money every month to us to keep us alive and to pay our bills. So that's
Is it
pretty
like as far as the donations goes, it like they just donate, or is it like a live chat kind of a thing where people like and,
live chat. Yeah.
so like they post a question and then you answer it, or is that how it works?
Well, no, we're just doing a show, like a regular show. It's on terrestrial radio, even though it's not a sexy FM station. It's like a little AM station, but we're syndicated in probably about 12 markets. But again, like the Rattler in Phoenix, Arizona, and it's like whatever AM. So it's not like these massive, big, sexy FM stations. So we probably have 12 to 13 affiliate stations. So we're live on terrestrial, and then we're also live on Twitch at the same time. So when we go to break on the terrestrial, right, we can't, the FCC, we can't say certain things. As soon as we're off terrestrial, but we're just on Twitch alone, then we can be like, fuck you, and we can, interact with chat and stuff. And they'll send us bits, they'll send us like direct cash payments to like via PayPal or something like that. We call out the bits on the air. So, if Scooter 385 donates 1,000 bits on the air, we'll call that out live so they can hear their name, which is like cool for them and encourages them to keep donating. So that's kind of just how that works. So the Twitch is kind of like a show within a show. Like they get us on terrestrial, and then they also get us during the breaks as well. So they can kind of see the behind the scenes of everything that's going on. And there's a camera too, which is cool. So they can see us and hear us. And so a lot more interactive than just listening to us. So it's pretty cool.
And I assume it's I mean, I assume everyone likes it. I assume everyone there is having a good time. It sounds like it.
Oh yeah, it's a shit ton of fun. Like it's the funnest job I've ever had in my life. It's pretty wild. It's the Wild West, well, Wild East. We're in Florida, but it's pretty crazy. Yeah.
Now, do you plan on, is this something you plan on staying with? It sounds like you really enjoy it. I mean, you don't plan on moving on? Do you have any other plans right now as to what you're?
No, not at all. I really enjoy being on like with the people I'm with now. I think that Bubba is on the upswing. I think that he's gained a lot of steam in the last 3 years when he hit rock bottom. I definitely want to ride this wave of success with him. And he's just a legend in the business. I mean, he was working with Howard Stern on Sirius. He's done this for 36 years. He's, everybody either loves him or hates him. Like he's been through, I mean, if you Google him, you'll just see the rap sheet of lawsuit after lawsuit. But at the end of the day, the man is like, he's on many levels, like just a fucking genius. Like he's so like he's just so irreverent and people love that about him. He'll just say what he's a character. He's also like that's just who he is as well. He's like clinically insane. He's mentally unwell, but he's a phenomenal radio host. He's just like the shit that he says and you're just like what the fuck. Now he's had to tone it down a bit because of the times obviously, but he's still, I mean, we push the envelope, we say whatever we want. Our audience is mostly right leaning, so it's a lot more comfortable for me to be like, I hope Trump wins and not feel like I'm going to lose my job, you know.
Right.
And if I yeah, go ahead.
Oh,
Sorry.
is the show? I don't. My viewers. I'm not sure. I'm not familiar enough with Bob. I've heard of him. So,
Mhm.
and going to assume that most of my listeners or viewers are probably about the same. The show, is it more like the old shock jock style of radio, or is it political talk? What is the format?
I mean, as much as I like it, people don't really like to be called shock jocks anymore, but yes, Bubba is certainly a shock jock. Kind of like the I don't want to say like the last samurai, but like that 90s like kind of shock jock radio of people just saying absolutely outrageous shit. Like Bubba is in that Mount Rushmore of hosts of radio personalities for sure. Now, I mean, it's very much current event driven, but even more so, it's really a lifestyle show. So like if you had a weird experience or a weird date or you went to a party and something crazy happened, like you bring it up on air. Like everything is content, Like I can give you a brief example. Maybe about 5 months ago, I'm on dating apps now because life is sad, but whatever. We're on dating apps and I connected with this guy who proposed a like biracial threesome with his big black cocked friend. Okay. Happens to message me during the show. Okay. So immediately I'm like disgusted because like I just want normal shit. But the radio personality, the radio professional in me was like, I have to keep talking to this person. So we're texting back and forth. Then we end the terrestrial show and then we did an after show, which is only on Twitch. So it was like perfect timing. It was just kismet, fate that he was interacting with me right as we were ending the terrestrial show. And we do like an after show on Tuesdays.
Now, hold on.
So
Okay, I just want to say, your mic. Sometimes your mic goes like sometimes you sound like you're right on the mic, and sometimes it sounds like you're a little bit away. So I'm just
okay.
letting you know. So when you talk, it sounds like you're like for a split second there, like you're real loud, and all of a sudden you got real quiet. I'm just letting
Oh,
you
okay.
know.
I think my sleeve was kind of covering my. Is this better? Like right here?
That sounds pretty good. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, I keep talking with this person just to try to get them, make it seem like I'm interested. He's also visiting, so time is of the essence. I get him to call into the show and I answer as if it's my cell phone. And we agree to meet at this hotel. So I asked him if I can bring a friend just to make sure everything is okay, like a male friend who was a guy on the show. So basically, he
Wait,
was
hold on. I got to ask you. You took him live on the air. Did he know he was calling a radio show? I mean,
no.
is
He
it
thought he was calling my cell phone. So he calls. There's a way for he basically the like Bubba just turned off everybody's mic except mine. So
okay?
when the guy called in, I just answered the phone and was like, "Hi, is this so and so?" And he's like, "Yeah." So we're making arrangements.
So was his voice? I'm just curious because aren't there FCC regulations about letting people know that they're on the air?
Oh, well, this was on Twitch.
Oh,
And
okay, okay,
yeah,
okay.
so it was on Twitch. So there were I did, we could say more salacious things. So he agrees to have me meet him and his friend at the hotel, which is literally 2 blocks away from where we work. So I just basically told him, yeah, that's cool. So I meet him. Mind you, we have like an entire camera crew with us, but they're hiding in the bushes. Like it was just such a crazy thing. So, mind you, we're also, which was kind of dodgy, but we were like recording the audio of the conversation as well. So it was pretty wild. And and he's like telling me about, what him and his friend are interested in. We're like breaking the ice. And like to know me is like, I'm just so like pretty prudish and like reserved when it comes to that sort of stuff. So for me to like actually be out in the field is pretty wild. So at the end, like the friend catches on that there's somebody in the bushes that's like filming them. And they both just take off running, and the cameraman is like running after them. And we're scared they're gonna call the cops. So we literally like my one of the other guys like had a pickup truck is driving. We like all pile in like in the back of it and just speed away. Like it was pretty insane.
What if the cops had come though? What would have been the problem? I don't understand. You're just meeting a guy, so there wouldn't be
Yeah,
any.
I think that we were like recording them against, but you're in a public place. Like we're not recording you in your room. We're allowed to film in public places. So nothing. We were just, freaked out because they were just like running away and getting visibly upset. So we didn't know what was gonna. We didn't know if they were gonna try to throw a swing at me or somebody else that I worked with. So we just kind of like got the hell out of there. But it was pretty wild. Yeah, we definitely we definitely do crazy stuff. So that's kind of what we're about. It's kind of like again, it's not like the hacky 90s radio, but we definitely incorporate a lot of those like fun pranks and gimmicky type stuff to keep it light. Yeah.
So okay, and there's a couple of people, a couple of guys called Opie and Anthony. Have you ever heard of them?
I am actually. Opie called in about 2 months ago and was chatting with us via Zoom. So yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we know Opie and Anthony, but yeah, they're legends, man.
Yeah, they got in trouble and pulled off the air by filming things. I don't remember the whole story, but they were in a church or something.
Hmm.
I don't know if he told you what happened to them, but they got in trouble and they eventually got fired and pulled off radio. And then I don't remember, they got pulled off for like a couple of years or something because they were still under contract. So they couldn't say anything for a while. Um,
Okay.
and it sounds like it was almost similar to I mean, I'm not saying you were doing anything as bad as what they were doing, but
Sure.
it sounds like what your little escapade there or whatever, it sounds kind of similar to what they were doing. Like they were trying to trick someone into doing so. They were just not like, necessarily you were tricking anybody, but you're just trying to capture the moment, I guess.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, definitely giving a false sense of um interest, and doing it just for content and not because I really wanted to have like a biracial, gangbang or anything like that. But yeah, we were definitely encouraged to do things like that. You push the limit as far as you need to go, as far as Bubba is concerned. The man has a team of the best lawyers in Tampa Bay. So, in the event that something goes wrong, you got plenty of people to call, back you up. They all know, they're great lawyers, but they are also very well connected. So they can make a few phone calls and, make things go away. It sounds like the mafia, but that's not what I'm trying to portray.
Right.
But yeah, so there's also like an extra level of security knowing that you have a team of badass. I mean, he's acquired some badass lawyers over the last 25 years that have been, defending him. And he's, 4-0 right now. I mean, he was taken to trial 4 times and times, was deemed not guilty. So it's
Uh,
pretty good in his favor. Yeah.
I don't know all the I don't know anything about his lawsuits. So when you tell he was 4-0, I don't know what was going on with any of those. So were they? I don't know if you want to discuss those, but were they?
Oh no, that's public information. There was an incident where he allegedly aired like a wild hog or like a boar getting slaughtered. So there was like I guess a pig really was getting slaughtered like in the back behind the studio, and he like allegedly let the audio go on air, but he really didn't. He just like looked up a video of like pigs squealing and put that over the airwaves. So PETA got involved and was like, this is animal cruelty. But the thing is like pigs get slaughtered all the time, whatever. So essentially basically saying that it actually wasn't the audio, and even if it was, you'd be allowed to air it because it happens like they weren't doing anything illegal by killing a wild boar. It just PETA got involved. So that was one thing. Another thing was
The hypocrisy of PETA, though. I mean, from what I understand, they actually euthanized several animals themselves. So
really, I didn't know that.
yeah, they prefer human beings not to interact with animals at all. And in some cases, I don't think all of them are this extreme. Some of them will actually kill another animal just so it doesn't have to live with a human being.
Oh
Now,
my God, I didn't know that at all.
those are extreme cases, though. I don't think the majority of them are like that, but there have been actual cases. I can't cite anything offhand, but people have been arrested and brought up on charges for those reasons. So I'm not a fan of PETA at all. I mean, because
Okay,
I support I support non cruelty to animals, being humane and
sure,
everything. But as far as PETA goes, they're too politically motivated and other reasons
right.
for other things as
Okay.
well. So
Yeah, I certainly need to know more about them. I myself am a vegetarian, but not for like any noble reasons. So a lot of people like attribute like they think I'm like a good person, but I'm not, because I mean I still eat eggs and like cheese. I feel like I'm even worse because I'm like, no, I don't want them to die. I want them to stay alive and like live in, these horrible conditions so that I can have cottage cheese. Like I feel like that might be worse than just eating the meat itself, but it is what it is. But yeah, I think another incident was he was talking smack about another radio personality, and that person said that he was being slandered and it was libel and all that sort of stuff, and he was just saying he was just exercising his First Amendment rights. He's allowed to call you a jerk or whatever and say that you suck and something like that. So he got off on that as well. But I think the wild boar case was really kind of like I think that went like national, like that was like national news. So that was pretty crazy.
mhm,
I think that was in like 2000 or 2001. So it was a while ago.
gotcha. The there was a guy on YouTube. I'm kind of going slightly off topic with this one.
Sure.
It was similar to what you're saying. He was this was like 10 years ago. He was bragging about how he was making like $50,000 a month on YouTube videos. This was back when the partner program was limited to who could join.
Okay.
He got it. It was I had to see this video. He actually made a video where he actually this is bad. It was really bad. He actually made a video of himself taking a chainsaw and cutting the head off of a live pig. And it was I was like, I don't know if he actually showed it on YouTube, but the guy eventually got pulled off. And he's not I haven't seen him in years. I don't remember what the guy's name was, but he was also accused of being a pedophile.
Oh my
Um,
God.
so he wasn't a good person. But I eventually saw the video. It was pretty gruesome. The pig, he actually cut the pig's head off. The body of the pig, kind of like a chicken, started running around the room without a head on.
Oh God. No, I can't watch that.
And it was pretty gruesome stuff. So um yeah, I mean, from what you're telling me, that doesn't sound like anything near as bad as some of the things that are out there right now, obviously. So
Yeah, yeah, certainly not. And they were like they were like certified hunters or whatever, whoever was really slaughtering the pig were allowed to do so. And it was like a animal that was, in season, like they weren't breaking any rules. Like it wasn't like an endangered species or something like that where you'd run into those sorts of issues. But yeah, so I mean, he got off on everything that um that came his way, but that's not to say that, the corporations that employed him, didn't want him around anymore. So that he kind of got blacklisted from every major market, every major corporation, broadcasting company in Tampa. So he just wasn't able to make a living anymore. And that's why he really had to transition and get on the digital space and not worry so much about getting. He's back on the airwaves. Don't get me wrong. Again, we're on like 13 different markets, but again, it's not like the big sexy FM stations. He's not on Sirius anymore. So,
Mhm. Yeah, I worked on a show myself. This was back in '97. It's kind of
Mhm.
similar. You ever heard of the Grease Man?
I haven't. No.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. He was pretty popular for a while. But I worked on the Grease Man show for it was only about 6 months. But he was dying off when the ratings. When I was working with him, he was on only 3 stations, and within a year after I left, he made a racial joke, and he was always doing racial jokes.
Hmm.
And the station, I think the company, I think it was Westwood One at the time. I think they were just looking for a reason to get rid of him. And
Sure.
the joke itself, Howard Stern was also working for the same company as I was, when we were, that is.
Oh
And
wow. Okay.
if Stern had said the same thing, I don't think they would have done anything. But
Right.
because Greaseman was dying off in the ratings, they decided, well, we're just gonna they used that as an excuse to just pull him off, and he hasn't been on radio really ever since. And he had a long career. He had been on since like the early '70s. So, and it's unfortunate because he's a good person, and so I don't like to see good people go off. He was just not thinking, and I don't think he meant anything intentional. I don't even remember what the joke was. I do remember a previous joke before I started working on his show, and it was something to the effect we were celebrating. He said we're celebrating Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and if only 4 other people had been shot off, we would have the whole week off. And
Oh god. Yeah.
so
Mhm.
that's the kind of humor. He doesn't mean anything by it. He's not.
Sure. It's like the intention is to make you laugh,
Yeah,
obviously.
and I laughed when I heard that the first time, and I was like, I think he's going to get in trouble. And sure enough, he got pulled off the air, but not fired at that time.
Mhm.
So that's the kind of humor he was into. So
Right. Yeah.
and but yeah, um yeah, the radio market, and once he got pulled off, that was it. I think he did like an online show back in the early 2000s, but he hasn't done, and that was back. What was that? There used to be an old streaming service. I don't even remember what it's called anymore. And nowadays, no one even does that anymore. It's not even streaming. It's all just what they call podcasts. So,
Mm.
and yeah, he might be able to get back in. I don't know, but it's yeah. I just want to relate my little story to you that sounded kind of similar to what you were talking about there.
Right. I call that getting Megan Kelly because, Megan Kelly got her show taken away from her when she made a comment about doing blackface and how she was like, I used to do it, or I don't think it's that bad if you're doing it to honor, like, you're paying homage to Diana Ross or whatever. She's like, I don't think that that's meant to be malicious. And then they canceled her. They took her off, removed her show, and they said it was because of that, but I think it was really because the ratings were bad and they were looking for an excuse to get rid of her from the get. So
Similar, I don't remember that one. I do remember the Roseanne Barr incident, if you remember that one.
yeah, 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 yes. About when the tweet and the
Yeah,
ambient, yeah.
she said she looked like Planet of the Apes or something.
Yeah, and she's like, I didn't even know the bitch was black. Like, yeah, yeah, I remember that one.
So I wanted to show you. I wanted to bring up the question of the day. This is something I
Sure,
run on my channel. I've been doing for a while. I'm going to bring this up on the screen. Give me a second here while I
sure.
bring this up. Um, I'll get your reaction to some of these questions I've been asking. This, I've only been doing this for the past maybe few weeks. Maybe okay. Here we go. I bring it. This is the question I asked today. Can you see that? Able to see the screen pretty well?
I see the background of like leaves.
Okay, but can you see what's on the screen though? The YouTube screen, what I brought up? Oh,
No, yeah.
oh, you can't. Oh, shoot. Okay, that's um interesting. I wonder why
Is
you
it on
can't.
chat? No.
No. Okay. Well, I'll ask you the question. And
Okay.
okay, so basically, today's question was beer, whiskey, wine, vodka, or tequila.
Ooh, I'm probably gonna go vodka.
Vodka. Okay, you would be in
Yeah.
the lower percentage of that. 10% of the people voted for vodka today. So,
Okay.
67% voted for beer. That was the clear winner. If you could see the screen, you would clearly see it was way ahead.
Yeah, yeah. I think most people would. Vodka is just my typical drink of choice, like a vodka soda with like a lime. Like that's where I live.
The question I asked, this was a few days ago. I said tea, coffee, hot chocolate, or none of them.
Coffee every day. Yes.
Oh, interesting. Okay, the coffee, well, the none of them was the lowest. It got 5%. Coffee only got 14% of a vote.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
tea was well, that was the highest. It got 60%.
Well, yeah, that's great because that's actually a lot better for you than coffee. So,
I'm wondering if a lot of my people, my viewers are British. So
yeah, could be.
no, this is one I asked that got, I think. By the way, all these questions I ask, I think my viewers. Let me check right here. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna check my live screen. I don't have it up anymore. Okay, I can't check it. Sorry. I was trying to see if we were still live on this, what the live screen looked like. Most of my questions here are getting between like 4,000, 5,000 votes, which is pretty good, not on average. YouTube, I think, censored one of my questions. This was about a week ago. I asked, "What's the best gift to give a girlfriend on a first date? Flowers, a vibrator, or a dildo?"
Oh, I would say on a first date, probably none. But if we're gonna choose one, then probably flowers.
Okay. Well, see, there's an inside joke in this whole thing. I don't think YouTube knows what the joke was because for some reason, they only allowed 105 people to vote on this one, or
Oh,
that's I think they kind of censored it. Um, because I don't understand why this one only got 105 votes, but the majority of the other ones got well over 4,000, 5,000 votes. It doesn't make any sense unless there's some sort of, I don't know, censoring of it. There's an inside joke though, because the reason I asked that question is because since my channel is about gaming, the video game that's mostly on my channel is called Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
hmm.
And in the game, when you go on a date, you can give your girlfriend either some flowers, a vibrator, or a dildo on your first.
Right,
So that was an inside joke. I didn't specify those from the game though. So
right. That's probably why you got knocked.
yeah, and so the majority of the people did say, oh well, not, I guess it is majority. 55% did say flowers, 10% said a vibrator,
Oh, wow.
and 20% said a dildo. So
Yeah, it's probably not the move in real life, but I get it.
um, let's see. Most of the other questions are just kind of boring. I just wanted to bring that up there. You said you can see. I'm just curious because I don't understand why it's not coming up. You're not seeing anything except for the background, like the leaves. You said.
Yeah.
How about now? What do you see now? I just changed the anything.
No, actually the what do you call it? The avatars are just gone and I just see the background.
Wow. Okay, that's weird. Okay. Okay. I don't know why that's doing that. Okay. All right, I'll just bring us back up then.
Okay.
There you go. Okay. So, as far as I didn't want to go too far off topic there. I just wanted to bring that in there because I wanted to do that
Yeah,
at the beginning of the
problem.
show, and I just didn't, like, I couldn't. I just wanted to do that before I forgot. That's all. Um, Now, as far as I mean, I don't know if you want to get into this, but as what would you say your politics are? I mean, because you seem to be very, highly motivated in a political way in some ways. I mean, what would you say your politics are?
Um, I am I'm registered as a libertarian. So I think that I don't know how much that answers your question, but I really don't like to put myself in a box. I have changed my views over time, which I think is healthy. Some people call that flip flopping. I call it evolving and learning, and then changing your mind because you acquired new information. But people don't appreciate that sort of thing a lot of the time. Um, I'm a big fan of Thomas Sowell, and it's really funny because he said, like, if you were, what was he saying? It was a really, really good quote. I want to pull it up here just really quickly. Hang tight for just bear with me for just 1 second here. I'm going to just go on his Instagram.
Sure. Now, if you want to say who Thomas Sowell is, because I'm sure there's going to be people.
Thomas Sowell, is by trade, he's an economist, and he works, I think, at Stanford. But he's really like a what would you call it? Like a really a thought leader with Black conservatives, because I think he was pretty much one of the first ones that was coming out and saying, like, I don't want affirmative action. I want us to be treated equally, and that means fully equally. There shouldn't be a minimum wage. You should just, you work. Basically, he was saying that like a minimum wage actually hurts people a lot of the time, because, like, for example, they're trying to make the minimum wage like $15 now, which is not going to work out in anybody's favor, because millions of Americans will be unemployed, because not everybody works for Chipotle or Starbucks or something like that, like a corporation that could handle it. A lot of these places are mom and pop places that, can't afford paying more than $7.50 an hour to a bunch of teenagers. So if you increase the minimum wage and things like that, you're going to put, either people are going to get fired or hours are going to get cut. So he's just a conservative leader, a Black conservative leader. And I think that he's not only led the way for a lot of Black people to kind of, quote, see the light, but also it is refreshing as a white person or a non-Black person to be like, okay, I also have these thoughts, and I've been told I'm racist, and this guy who is Black is telling me you are not racist. So I think that that's also really helpful to non-Black people, or people who are white, or cisgendered, whatever it may be, where they feel like they aren't special in any sort of way, where they're not like in a marginalized group, say, they're not gay or whatever, this or that. You sometimes you think like, maybe I am homophobic, or maybe I am racist, or maybe I am sexist, and he kind of just dispels all that and says, no, you're not. You think this, and you think it's this way because the facts align with the viewpoint. And that's kind of that's Thomas Sowell, I guess, in a nutshell. I don't know how well I described that, but there was I
That's
can't
cool. I do want. I'd like to add to that. I was waiting till you finish
sure.
the to your minimum wage argument, as far as something I think people have discussed this, but also it's the cost of living factor. If you live in New York City, $15 an hour is going to be a big difference versus saying out in the middle of the boonies, where their cost of living is much lower. So
Right.
if you force someone who lives in a very rural area where there's hardly anybody living to pay $15 to somebody who to come in and just work a small job that's not worth it, they're not going to hire them.
Sure.
You're not, you can't, there's no way that you're going to pay $15 an hour. And I used to, my mother grew up in a small town called Patton, Pennsylvania. And when I went up there one time back in the early 90s, I think it was, the house up there was like $5,000. I mean, it was like ridiculously low.
Ridiculous. Right.
And it's like, $15 an hour. You don't need $15 an hour in those kinds of areas.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And to act like it's universal across the board does not make any sense. So and that's where the idea that where states' rights, or states should make, or even less, even going down to the local level, should make their own decisions onto that kind of subject. If you should even have a minimum wage, of course. I'm not saying you should, but
Right.
the
Go ahead.
I'm just, it's not a like, I'm just going to reiterate, it's just not a universal. It's not universal. So.
Absolutely. And I found the quote that I wanted to say from Thomas Sowell. He said, quote, if you have always believed that everyone should play by the same rules and be judged by the same standards, that would have gotten you labeled a radical 60 years ago, a liberal 30 years ago, and a racist today. And it's like so moving, because it's true. And I mean, I grew up in a pretty liberal community, within like a liberal family, minus my father, who wasn't like very religious, but had conservative ideals, or ideas and ideals, when it came to, taxes and immigration. Because it's funny, because as an immigrant, a legal immigrant, I think that they have a disdain for people who come in illegally, because they understand that, like, my dad had to jump through all the hoops to do it the right way. So when people just illegally cross the border, and they're just given amnesty or, just granted citizenship, it really is a slap in the face to everybody that waited years to get a green card and then waited more years to file for residency and then more years to finally get citizenship and become a citizen of the United States. So I feel like immigrants who came in through legal channels really have a serious disdain for people who don't do it through proper channels, because it's like, well, why do we have rules? Like, why did I follow the rules if they got away with not having to follow the rules? So
That's interesting. The reason I say it's interesting is because, from what I understand, a lot of libertarians are actually, they don't really care about having illegal aliens come across the country, across the border. They actually support it in a lot of ways. And
I don't think I've heard that from
well,
libertarians.
because that's what I've heard. The logic is because they can get lower wages.
Right, but I think that I get that, and there is a lot of issues where libertarians don't align, which I kind of like, because it's not like there's like a set script. But as far as, I'm aware, libertarians are very much in favor of having a border and vetting people, making sure that, you don't want to let anybody over the border, because that can harm the existing residents and citizens of that country or surrounding area. So, basically the main premises of libertarianism is like, you should be able to do whatever the fuck you want to do as long as it doesn't impede on my right to do the same thing. So, like, you can't do anything. Like, you can't steal my shit, because it's mine and you're impeding on, my ability to live freely. But so I think that there'd be some conflict there in terms of like having people of unknown backgrounds just coming over because of cheap labor. I think that they'd probably find that to be problematic, because I think libertarians, they're not anarchists. They certainly believe in country and, obviously a limited government. So they do believe in government and borders and, not having just like a permeable border where anybody can kind of just be absorbed in, just because of the ability of them to provide cheap labor. So as far as I know, I could be wrong, but.
Okay, well, let's I guess we can go ahead and start wrapping everything up for this.
Okay.
Is there anything else you wanted to add?
I feel like we really covered a lot today. So, I think that's pretty much it. I guess if I were to give a message to the people listening, I would say, um, listen, listen to people you disagree with, don't live in an echo chamber. Listen to the people that don't agree with you and try to understand where they're coming from, because that's really important, to have compassion for people that think differently than you, because it's very easy to bond with. And a lot of people, I'm sure, have made friends because they have a common enemy, whether it's white cisgendered straight males, or if it's Trump, or we hate this person and we hate that person. Like, those bonds are pretty cheap, but if you can find common ground with someone that you disagree with, I think that's a lot more meaningful. So if my my approach, which I try to advocate, is if you disagree with someone, just kind of pummel them with questions. Like, be like, oh, why do you think that? And then they explain, well, because this. Then you go, well, why do you think that? Like, if you act inquisitive, you're more likely, A, to get an honest answer out of them, B, have just a more productive conversation, and C, if you're looking to persuade them, getting that, trying to see their own hypocrisy or their own flaws in the argument will become illuminated in kind of like a safer light, because they don't feel like the need to defend themselves. Once you get people on the defensive, they really lock on to whatever they're saying and just call you a piece of shit. But if you can get them in a state where they're relaxed and calm, and you can be like, but do you understand how that could be problematic or whatever? Then they go, yeah, I do. And they're much more open to be, um, to either change their mind, or at the very least, like, if I'm not even trying to change your mind, I'm just trying to make you open to the way that I see things. So I'm being open to the way that you see things, in the hopefully in the efforts that you will provide the same service for me, in terms of just listening and understanding and saying, like, okay, I get it. Oh, okay, you are again, you don't want certain things with like climate because your parents are from a coal mining town in Appalachia, and if we shut down the coal mines because of clean energy, like your family can't eat. Like I want to understand where you're coming from instead of just saying, "Oh, you hate the planet, fuck you." So I think that that is the message that I try to give in every. I mean, I don't like preach this every day, but I feel like the way that I live and the way that I talk on the radio, I really try to get people to understand where I'm coming from. And I also want to bring in people that I disagree with so that I can understand where they're coming from. And then you just live in a much better, live a much better life, I think. And I think everybody grows. And I definitely think that, especially after the last year we had where it was just so contentious. I'm not preaching, like, you're not going to hear me say like, peace, love and everything, but just to live a more pleasant life. I think that is the goal. So that's what I would say.
Well, it's very well said. It would be nice if
Okay.
everyone lived that way, though. I don't know if
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
that's ever going to happen, but
Yeah, just let go of your ego and leave the door cracked open that, you could be wrong, or you could be misinformed, or you could be just missing information, like you don't see the whole picture, and be open to, changing your mind. And if you are wrong, and that says nothing about you as your character. People align their ideologies with who they are as a person. Like if I'm wrong, then I'm not valuable or whatever. Like their ego is very much tied to being right. If you can kind of divorce yourself from that way of thinking and divorce your ideas from who you are as a person, and be open to changing your mind if you acquire more information, I think that that's a really beautiful thing. And it happens to me frequently where I go, oh, I didn't realize that. And I do my own research and I go, well, I've now changed my stance. And I'm wrong. And then when you accept fault, or you accept that you're wrong, like no one can hurt you. What are they going to say? You're wrong. You're like, yeah, I already admitted it. So you kind of take the wind out of everyone's sails. If they're going to accuse you of being wrong, you're like, yes, I know. I said I was wrong. So I just think that that's a good way to live your life. I think it's a more productive way. And if your goal is to, I'm all about trying to find the truth, and then, preach that to the masses. I don't care what it is. If it's truth I don't like, if it's an, what was the Al Gore documentary? What was it?
I forget.
Inconvenient truth. Like if it's an
Oh,
inconvenient truth, then it is what it is. Like I just want to know what the truth is, even if it maybe is not in alignment with the way that I think about things. You know what I mean? So I just want to know what's going on. That's it.
that's very well said. Well,
Yeah.
this has been Anna Hum. I'm sorry, I almost said
You
it
got
again.
it. No, you got it. Yeah.
Okay, and so I hope everyone enjoyed the show tonight, and hopefully we'll look forward to more of this. And I'll see you guys next week. Hopefully, I'm not sure when the show will be next week. Hopefully, we'll schedule something for maybe Monday, like I usually do. But anyway, thanks for tuning in.
Thank you for having me.